Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's Carolyn. Today I have another unboxing video for you. We're going to be unboxing the Night School Moonlit Magic deck. And so this is a deck that I don't really know anything about. I picked it up at Target recently and it was something that intrigued me and caught my attention. And so I'm really excited to look through this deck, see what it's about, and see how it resonates for me. And I'm excited to have it a part of my collection because this is something that typically I don't do when I pick out new decks. Typically there's stuff that I either have heard about before and I'm interested in, or they're a deck where I research them ahead of time to know if it's going to resonate for me or not. And so this was more of an impulsive buy. I'm hoping that I really do like this deck, that it resonates for me, but I thought it would be fun to do an unboxing and let you know my first impressions of it. So the back of the box says, explore the magic and mystery of the night. Further your magical practice with bite-sized mantras, rituals, essential concepts, and key symbols in the 100 card deck inspired by Maya Toll's The Night School. This enchanted set includes a mini book to ground and inspire your magical explorations. And so my first impressions of the packaging is that it's very interesting. I like how small it is. It's very compact if you wanted to travel with it. So when you open the box up, it has the side flap here that's all magnetic that you just open it up with, and then on the inside you have the guidebook right here, and then inside you have the cards. So I need to figure out how you get these cards out because it's a little bit of like this plastic box here. I don't know if I break this open itself, so just give me a minute to figure this all out. Okay, so I figured it out. I took the tape off the box and then I was able to get the lid of it open. It seems like this plastic box does stay in it, and then the cards come wrapped in the plastic wrap, and so once I take that off I should be able to put them back in the box just fine. So now looking at the guidebook, it has this little like slip here that you put the last page in order to then slide in and out so it stays put. So like I said, this box is really good if you're someone where you travel a lot. So then we have the guidebook here, and I love how tiny it is. It's super cute. And so I'm going to go ahead and read it a bit and then tell you my first impressions. So my first impression of the guidebook is that it's really fun, very interesting, lets you know what this deck is all about, but I don't get the impression that this deck is great for beginners. I think this deck is a great addition to your collection if you are wanting to do shadow work or dive deeper into your psyche, if you want to explore the night school. I think it's a really fun deck that is something that can add to your collection if you already know how to interpret cards and their own meanings, or if you're using this to help aid your craft and develop your own psychic abilities and your intuition. One of the supplies that this guidebook suggests you have is a tarot deck. So I think this is better for intermediate to more advanced readers because you should have other cards that you can clarify this deck with. I feel like these cards might be a little bit vague when you're just reading with them by yourself. I haven't looked at the cards yet to see that just yet, but that is something that might be an issue because there's no meaning of each of the individual cards in this guidebook. So this guidebook is not going to tell you what a card means. It's not diving deeper into the meaning at all or the symbolism behind it. So you really have to go off whatever the card says and your own intuition. And so that might be something a beginner struggles with. Now, if you are a beginner and you are drawn to get this deck, I don't think it would be impossible for you, but you would really have to utilize whatever information the cards itself give you and your own intuition. You have to be prepared to do a little bit more work than another oracle deck would have you do. Overall, I think that the guidebook is a really great introduction to the deck. It lets you know the vibe of the deck and what it's going to help you with, and I do like how it lists supplies you might need when working with this deck and how to utilize them in your craft. I think based on the guidebook, this is going to be a really good deck to help you develop your own abilities and help you grow in terms of doing shadow work. And so my impression of the guidebook is that it's very informative in showing what this deck is going to be utilized for, but it also is showing who this deck is for, and from my first impressions, it seems intermediate to advanced readers. So I just got done shuffling the cards, and I would say that these cards shuffle as your typical deck does. I did both the riffle and the overhand shuffle, and for both of these, it is a little bit clumsy at first because you have to get used to it. These cards aren't as flexible as other decks are, but they do have a matte finish, which makes it where they don't slip around too much. So they aren't the easiest cards to shuffle, but they're definitely not hard by any means. You just have to get used to them. As you saw when I was shuffling the cards, I didn't have too much of an issue with it. Maybe sometimes when you go to pick it up, because this is such a large deck, you might leave a card or two on the table and then you just pick that up and put it back into your pile. So one con that I do want to point out about these cards is that they do have a tendency to stick together. And so that means when you first get this deck and you shuffle it, they're not going to shuffle that well because the cards are stuck together. And so that means that the different pairings of the cards as far as the the zodiacs or the elements. Those are all going to be grouped together. And I personally don't like that in my decks because when I'm shuffling, I don't want like 3 of the same type of cards to come out. I want it to really be what's authentic to the reading. And so when cards are stuck together, I like to go through and individually separate them. And what I will do for decks that have certain patterns of cards, I don't like for them to be next to each other unless it happens organically when I'm shuffling the cards in its normal use. But when I first get them, I try and mix it up as best as I can. And so what I did and what I suggest you do too is to take your cards and put them into different piles as you separate the cards. And if you see that you're going to be placing the same card on top of a similar card to it, I will go ahead and start a new pile with that until I feel like the cards are mixed up enough. And so I would highly recommend for you to do that with this deck to make sure that you don't have anything that's stuck together. As far as the size of these cards go, I think that it also helps with shuffling because they're not too big. Even though there's a lot of cards, they're smaller than your average card, and so that makes it easy for you to hold them in your hands. As you can see here, I'm comparing the size of this deck to a traditional tarot deck size, and so they're a lot shorter than your typical deck. Now these cards are interesting. They're not like your typical oracle deck. There's a lot of words and prompts on them, and I know that the back of the deck says that there's mantras. I only saw 1 mantra in this deck, so if you're wanting something that is all about mantras and affirmations, I would suggest to go with a different deck. I think this deck is much more suited for getting to know yourself on a deeper level and understanding your own psychic abilities. If you're wanting a deck that's more affirmation based, I would suggest getting the Super Attractor deck. But this deck is very unique. I haven't seen anything like it. If others exist, feel free to let me know. I would love to check them out because I find that this is super fascinating and it really intrigues me. I think this is a great deck to do shadow work with, or if you're trying to improve yourself. And so for example, here are some of the cards. Your hero's journey. Watch a movie of your choice and map the hero's journey. Did you identify with the hero? Why or why not? Reading macro patterns. The small pieces of the universe can be discerned by observing the universe at large. Astrology and tarot are 2 tools for reading macro patterns. Turn to them when you want to know how the movements of the universe apply to you. Astrology, energetic, Sagittarius, upbeat, optimism, lively, high energy, humorous, loves to travel and expand, confident, restless, and needing freedom, and prone to overspending and overdoing. In the body, thighs, sciatic nerves, and hips. Practice reading symbols. Know thyself, nothing in excess, surety brings ruin. How do you interpret this ancient Greek inscription? Clairsentient. Those who are clairsentient know in their bodies. If your palms always itch when someone lies to you, or if you read about an herb and feel the illness it treats in your body, then you are displaying clairsentience. Scrying the stars. With a question in mind, gaze at the night sky. What catches your eye? Use the star map to figure out which constellation you noticed. If it was a single star, see which constellation it's part of. Research your constellation stories. Self-care. Being nurtured means something different for each person. What does it mean to you? Ancient sites research. Temple of Amun at Karnak. Air. Air is one of the 4 elements in the tarot deck. Air aligns with swords. In astrology, is represented by Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Air represents a catalyst and signifies change as well as intellect. The vibrations of air can help you achieve altered states of consciousness. Read the sticks. Gather a handful of short sticks, write down a question you have about your life, throw the sticks down while thinking about your question, examine the way the sticks fall, looking for patterns that help you answer the question you asked. Unleash your senses. How does the night feel on your skin? Is it a blanket or a butterfly kiss? Is the night air humid, playful, sensuous, or chilly? And so that's just some of the examples of the cards in this deck. Things like astrology, energetics, and the ancient sites that you look up, those repeat more. For example, we have all 12 of the zodiacs. We have all of the elements in this deck. And so those certain patterns repeat and give you different prompts or different things to think about with each of those. And so there's a little bit of a pattern throughout the cards themselves, but then there's also individual prompts that then you can utilize in its own unique way. And so overall, my impressions of this deck is I think it's really useful and insightful for the right person. If you're intermediate to advanced with your reading and you're wanting something to help improve your life, get to understand yourself and your psyche better, get to develop your abilities better, get to do some shadow work, I think it's really going to be a great deck for you. I think a lot of progress can be made with it. If you're a beginner, I would say wait a bit, get to utilize a different tarot or oracle deck to fully understand those meanings and symbolism so that then when you are utilizing utilizing this deck. If you need to clarify, you'll have that at your disposal instead of just grasping at straws trying to understand what these cards mean for you. As far as storage goes, I really like the packaging of this deck. I think it's really convenient. I think it's really great how the guidebook and everything is so small and compact you can travel with it. And then I really like the magnetic closure. Not all decks have it, but when they do, I always appreciate that extra touch. And as far as shuffling goes, if you are someone where you have shuffled other cards before, I think it's going to be easy for you to learn to shuffle this. I don't see that being anything to hold you back from getting this deck. And so overall, if you're wanting to grow as a person, if you're drawn to this deck, if you're drawn to shadow work, I would definitely recommend this deck for you. And so this is going to be something where you have to figure out if this deck fits your life. It's not your traditional oracle deck. You're not going to be using this for everyone's readings in your life. This is definitely to help understand your own psyche and how you can grow and develop who you are as a person. If that's not something you want to utilize your oracle deck for, and you're more interested in using it to understand what's going to happen or how to better prepare for that, this is not going to be the right deck for you. This is definitely an introspective deck. And so if that's something you want and you are familiar with oracle decks and you can utilize this, that's great. Go ahead and get it. But if that's not what you want, this is not the right deck for you. And if you were someone where you just want affirmations, this is not the right deck for you either. There's other oracle decks that you can get that are affirmation based. This deck, I only saw one affirmation in it. There may be more, but it's not enough for me to recommend this deck as a mantra deck itself. And so overall, I'm pleasantly surprised with this deck. I'm glad that I picked it up impulsively. It's something I will get a lot of use out of, but make sure it's the right fit for you before you go ahead and get it. And so I hope that this review and first impressions helped you out and helped you understand better if this is the right fit for you. Let me know in the comments down below if you have this deck or if you're going to get it. What do you think about it? And if you want to watch other reviews of mine, I'll have my unboxing playlist linked in the cards above for you to watch next. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I would love to have you a part of this family, and make sure you turn on that bell notification so you don't miss out when I post my next video. I post new videos every single week to help you on your spiritual journeys, and I hope you all have a good one until I see you again. Bye.